Hi. Chapter 5, Section 2, Species Interactions. Our guiding question in this section of the chapter will deal with how do species interact in nature? The opening chapter introductory central case study focused on the zebra mussel, which has completely displaced the 20 native mussel species in Lake St. Clair. So let's carry this on further. So, species interactions. What is an organism's niche? What? Its niche. Describe an organism's use of resources and functional role in the community. So it's different from an organism's habitat. An organism's habitat is the area in which that organisms live, but the organism's niche is how it uses the resources and its functional role within the area to which it lives. It's affected by an organism's tolerance, which is its ability to survive and reproduce under changing environmental conditions. So you have certain tolerance levels. You could have those optimal ranges, and then as you come away from the optimal ranges, your chances of survival and reproducing become slimmer. It's often restricted by competition. So there are two types of niches that an organism that we talk about in ecology and species interaction. There is the fundamental niche, and the fundamental niche is when you have two resources, and if you look at the x-axis, you have resource 1 in the graph, and on the y-axis, you have resource 2. In a fundamental niche, the species 1 fulfills all its roles and uses all the resources it can. But that is not that's fundamental, so that's what we would like to think would occur. But what really happens is what we see in the realized niche. And in the realized niche, that is where we have species 1 being limited in its role and or uses only a subset of resources because you have the interaction of not just one species, but many species. So you have species 1, species 2, and species 3. And all of those might be going after the same resource or two. So when you talk about the tolerance and an organism's niche, the tolerance is that ability to survive and reproduce. And organisms that have very restricted tolerance levels in their niche are called specialists. So you could have those organisms that are specialists and those organisms that are generalists. A specialist organism means that it lives in certain conditions and its very specific range of tolerance, where a generalist has a wide array of habitats or a wide array of resources to which that organism could use. So generalists generally succeed by being able to live in many different places and in variable weather conditions, where a specialist can be very successful in their niche by being extremely good at the things they do. However, they might not be able to adapt when those conditions change. So what is competition? Competition is when organisms compete when they seek for the same limited resource. In rare cases, one species can entirely exclude another from using the resource, and it is to reduce competition. The species often partition resources, which can lead to character displacement. So, two basic types of competition. You have interspecific competition, and interspecific competition occurs when there's competition among the members of the same species. And then you have interspecific competition, which is when you have competition among members of two or more different species. Interspecific competition is the type of competition that gives rise to the different types of outcomes. So if you look in the diagram here, we have a tree, and on that tree we have the resource partitioning, and that is where the species are partitioned or divided by resource they use in common by specializing in different things that they do there. So, for example, here you have the white-breasted nuthatch, and that's a bird that will climb down trunks of trees to look for insects. So it looks for food on that tree trunk a little differently than for, say, the pileated woodpecker or the pileated woodpecker, which digs deeply into the wood to find larger insects, versus the yellow-bellied sapsucker, which drills rows of holes and consumes the sap and insects stuck in the sap. And then down here we have the brown creeper, which climbs up the trunk looking for tiny insects. So that is resource partitioning. Another type of competition is competition exclusion. And direct competition between species often results in a winner and loser. If one species is a very effective competitor, it may exclude the other species from the resource entirely, and that outcome is competitive exclusion. So when you have, to reduce that competition, you have that partitioning resource, that can lead to character displacement, and ecologists refer to a resource partitioning leading to the evolution of physical characteristics among the competing species that reflect their specialized role in the environment. Now, as far as symbiotic relationships, a symbiotic relationship is when one organism lives in close approximation with another organism. And our first symbiotic type of relationship is predation. Predation, we use signs here. The plus sign means it benefits. The negative sign means it does not benefit, and it's probably harmed in some fashion or another. And if there's a 0, that means it doesn't either benefit nor is it harmed. All right. So, predation. Predation is a process by which predators hunt, kill, and consume prey. It causes cycles of predatory and prey populations, and as predation defense mechanisms, traits such as camouflage, as you would see in zebra are camouflage for the grasslands. You have the camouflage of deer going with their background colors. You have mimicry. So this is often when you have an organism which would mimic that of another organism that may be more poisonous. You have warning coloration. So these are all types of defense traits that the prey would develop or the predator would develop in for hunting the prey. So that would be an evolved, those traits would have evolved in response to that predator-prey interaction. Some predator-prey relationships are examples of coevolution, and this process by which two species evolve in response to changes in each other. Did you know a single rough-skinned newt contains enough poison to kill 100 people? Unfortunately for the newt, its predator, the common garter snake, has co-evolved resistance to the toxin. So coevolution is the process by which two species evolve in response to changes in each other. A change in one species, therefore, is usually followed by the change in the other. You could think of this as the coevolution of honeybees or insects, pollinators, with flowering plants, angiosperms. So that would be a coevolutionary relationship there. Our next really cool species interaction is when you have one organism will benefit and the other one is harmed. The example here, we could see a parasite or parasitism. So one organism, the parasite, benefits because it relies on the host for nourishment or for some other benefit. Now, in most parasitic symbiotic relationships, the host organism is not killed off because then that would be detrimental to the parasite itself. But in some cases, we do see that happening. Herbivory is when an animal is feeding on a plant. So that's a type of situation where the one benefits, the animal would benefit, and the plant would be negatively harmed. So in the picture there, we have a hookworm, which is a really cool parasite. I love parasites, probably one of my favorite types of symbiotic relationships. in which an organism would live in close relationship to another organism. But did you know that one study in Pacific estuaries suggests that parasites play an important role in keeping these ecosystems healthy by controlling host populations? We've also found in some human studies that parasitism, as we rid ourselves, eradicate germs and worms and all the other parasites that live within us and on us, internally and externally, as we eradicate ourselves of these things, we're starting to see an increase. Some studies are suggesting that there's an increase in such diseases as ADHD, Crohn's disease, gastrointestinal diseases, so on and so forth. So in some parasitism relationships, one truly does benefit. The next type of symbiotic relationship would be a mutualistic, where both organisms benefit, or a commensalistic relationship, and that's when one organism benefits and the other one, there is no effect at all. So an example of a mutualistic relationship, a mutualistic relationship is a relationship in which two or more species benefit. For example, plant roots and fungi often form symbiotic relationships in association called the mycorrhizae. And in the relationship, the plant provides energy and protection to the fungus, and then the fungus in return will assist the plant with absorbing nutrients from the soil. So that would be a mutualistic type of relationship. A commensalistic type of relationship is when an organism's relationship in which one species benefits and the other one is unaffected. Here we could see an example. If you would think about the Palo Verde trees in the southwest Sonora Desert, they create shade and leaf litter and that allow the soil beneath them to hold moisture. And then what would happen is, as the Palo Verde tree becomes cooler and moister than the surrounding ground, making it easier for young plants to germinate and grow. So there one would benefit, the other one would not be affected at all. And that's it for section 5.2.